Let's be real. Starting, running, and scaling a coaching business can feel exhausting. I mean, you've got the marketing, the hustling, the selling, all that stuff you didn't realize you would need to master when you decided to start a coaching business. For anything like me, you started your coaching business to change the world, to improve the lives of others while improving your own. Well, the truth is, running a business doesn't have to be as hard as many of us have made it out to seem. And you don't even have to do all that hustling stuff if you don't want to. You really can get into flow, into your zone of genius, and get back to the work you were sent here to do. But you have to ask for help. You have to be willing to work in new ways. You have to be willing to open up your mind to mentors who might be doing it differently than you've ever considered. And you have to be willing to actually implement new ways of thinking and running your business. If you're up for that, stay tuned. I'm Hanna Hermanson, your certified coach, international speaker, author, and yes, the founder of Dream Life is Real Life and the host of this show. And I've been able to help hundreds of coaches build, scale, and enjoy their online businesses. Essentially, make their dream life their real life. And if you'd like help improving your business life and get your coaching business to the next level, we might be able to help you. Head on over to dreamlifeisreallife.com/show to get all the resources and episodes that we talk about in this community. You can join our Facebook community, you can find me on Instagram, but more importantly, if you're really ready to integrate what you learn here today and on other episodes, then you'll be able to set up a complimentary 10-minute chat with my team. Again, at dreamlifeisreallife.com/show, no strings attached. We love getting to know you and seeing what are the right next moves for you. But now let's get on to the show. In this podcast, you'll find the real people, concrete tactics, and weekly motivation and inspiration to make your dream life and business real. I started this podcast to bring you role models that I never had. We talk to successful entrepreneurs, freedom seekers, business owners, and people living life on their own terms. To be a true leader, to create the legacy you desire, and to live in alignment, you need a tribe lifting you up. And I've made it my mission to be your tribe, to bring them to your ears at least, because after all, we are all in this together. Now, let's cue the music. Everyone, I am so excited that today we are hanging out with a new friend, Taylor Dadds. Taylor is located in Austin, Texas, where she is a health coach and recipe developer. She helps busy women find balance by simplified nutrition and lasting routines. She focuses on using simple, clean ingredients and creates meals that can be made easily for even busy people to maintain a healthy lifestyle. She also, with this health coaching opportunity has come her One Balanced Life blog and Instagram. And by growing her business, she's brought her Instagram following over 100K. And she also on her website has been able to monetize her blog to the point where she is running her health coaching business and lifestyle blog full time, which I think is a really big illusion for people. Just get a bunch of followers and a bunch of product and you're home by yourself all the time. No one quite knows how the whole influencer social media game is really played behind the scenes. So really excited to have you, Taylor, talk to us about both your coaching and your social media lives. Welcome.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So I always like to ask the question, growing up, did you think of yourself as, I'm going to monetize an Instagram account one day? Or how did you grow up to, have this profession? What brought you here?
Oh my gosh. No, I still wake up some days and I'm like, wait, I do this? This is my job? It's crazy. I would have never imagined that this would be what I was doing right now. I was the same, like go to school, get a degree, get out of school and use that degree for my full-time job. So that was kind of how I grew up and what I thought I would be doing right out of school. And what came with that was I was in a job where I wasn't happy. I was just left really feeling unfulfilled. So that's when I started One Balanced Life, because I just needed like a creative outlet.
Mm-hmm.
I always, loved healthy eating and cooking, would just do it around my place as fun for me. And so that's how I started my page, and I would have never imagined it to grow to what it is today, but it's so fun. And being able to wake up and, love what you do every day is like really like the best feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think so many people can relate to that feeling of unfulfillment in the corporate world or in a 9-to-5, or really just working for other people's dreams. And I myself did the side hustle, the dabbling, right? For me, it was teaching yoga. I would play hooky and go teach yoga during my lunch breaks and then go back and play the cubicle game. And so for you, starting the blog, like, how did you balance doing both at the same time at the beginning?
I look back now and I'm like, I don't know how I did that, because
Totally.
it was constantly, I had to be in my office by like 8:39 every day. I left at 5. Sometimes I was in like the entertainment business, so I was working weekends and nights sometimes. So I would wake up super early. I would still like do my workout because that always made me feel good. And then I would prep my food, take my picture, run into the office with the food that I just took the picture of. And then after work, I would be coming home and I would catch back up on Instagram. And it was just like, I always like was showing up, even though I just had no idea where it was going. I just didn't. There were many times where I think like I wanted to quit, but I just kept doing it. And I'm so glad that I, did that for myself.
Right. Yeah. I was just talking to a client this morning about that era of grit, of being in the trenches, of putting in some long hours. And it really comes back to this quote around entrepreneurship, which is entrepreneurs are willing to spend part of their life like no one else will, so they can spend the rest of their life like no one else will. Right? Like you said, now you're waking up like, how is this what I just do? I love, what my lifestyle looks like. And I'm curious, when you were really getting things going and putting in that beginning effort, how did you start? Like, were you eating what I call 0-calorie brownies, which are like the free webinars and the ebooks and all the little things that people will give you that are like little and helpful, harmless because they're 0 calories. But then for me, when I did that, I became very bloated and frustrated with all of, everyone else's little tricks that I binged on, like 0-calorie brownies, and then didn't necessarily, see the same growth that they did. I made that mistake at the beginning. And I'm curious for you, as you were charting the blogging waters and learning all these new things, where you learned the most. Was it through mentorship, action, ebooks? What was helpful?
I love those terms, 0 calorie. I honestly, when I started, I didn't even know what an influencer was. Like, that's how it was completely over my head. I followed, people that were doing the same thing on Instagram that I now do, and sharing food and all of that and recipes. But I still had no idea what that type of landscape was. I think I listened to like some podcasts and stuff that, talked about the marketing in that aspect. Still never thought that I would be like a quote unquote influencer, even though I still don't really like those terms. But I think just like keeping true to myself and really just like showing up authentically and being passionate about this was what helped me grow in this. I mean, I do look back on a lot of things and I'm like, wait, why didn't I do that? Or like, why didn't I like consider that when I was like still, in that like while growing and stuff. But, I think a lot of the times it's just I feel like now there's so many more resources for it. And I don't know if maybe I was just like oblivious to it then, or if it's just grown that much in the last 4 years of this as being a business. But yeah, I kind of was just like head down in doing my 9-to-5 job and then doing this and creating food, and that was it.
Yeah. And I think that's the perception for a lot of people. I've worked with a lot of bloggers who are like, I'm just going to like share my passion and write about it, and money will fall from the sky. And so I'm curious what it actually took for you to go from just, sharing what you were passionate about to creating some profit on that. So talk us through what are some of the best practices to growing the brand and, maybe getting started in 2021, not 2016. What would you recommend today for folks starting?
I think like the biggest thing, one, which is like when I look back, being consistent. Like I showed up every single day sharing something on my feed, whether, I had the time or not. And I've continued, I give myself a little bit more time now, but just being consistent with like sharing, at least a couple times a week, if not, every day to start. And then with that consistency of like the time that you post, because Instagram algorithm is crazy and, will like pick up on those things. So then your audience knows like what time you're going to be posting around. I think little things like that help. And then one, like finding your voice on a platform like that is huge. Like what I always want people to feel like when they come to my page is like, hey, we're friends. Like, like here's a recipe and like, I think you would really like it. That's what I want people to just feel like, they're always welcome. Everything on my page is one, easy to make, and you can easily like incorporate it into your life. So just finding your voice and maintaining that within all your posts and everything you share. I think now there's a huge leverage of using Instagram stories to kind of share behind the scenes, get people to get to know you better rather than just sharing, in feed posts. I was reading something the other day that said pretty pictures won't help you grow your business anymore. And that's so true, because just sharing like a little square on your feed isn't going to help you continue to grow. People want to know you, and they want to know, who is it behind the brand.
It's so interesting that like 4 years ago, there weren't even stories. I don't even think I had Instagram 4 years ago. And one of the things that I'm really passionate about is finding those lasting marketing principles that will always stick. Like hashtags and algorithms and stories and reels and TikToks, like those sexy things are always going to evolve. But what you said around being consistent and finding your authentic voice, those things are always going to be important, whether you're on the sidewalk with a flyer, old school marketing, or you're on a telemarketing show, or, Instagram stories. I'd love to learn more about how you found that, or how you recommend other people to hone that voice, because there's lots of, again, moving parts and advice about captions and, the best way to show up. So how do we actually find our voice, or how did you find yours?
I think like I got a tip one time, because honestly, stories were really hard for me and it's still hard for me, because I'm just like, why am I just doing a story of this thing, random thing, and because they started right when I was like still, after I started my stuff. So, someone told me one, like, talking, like act like you're talking to your friend or something. And I think that's so great, because like, one, you're going to be so casual with your friend when you're like recording or something, like however you would speak that way. And then two, with captions, just like you're just talking, and I think those are probably the biggest things for like finding your voice. And I think coming back to like your why, and like, why are you doing this? Why are you showing up? I think that helps you in your voice and finding that voice. It really, I think it should come naturally when you know why you're showing up every day too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Like back to the clarity, right? Of like that intention, like you said, of like coming from that place of passion, and I want people to feel like a friend, and you're really clear about who you are, what you're talking about, what your values are. And then for us in our program, that's the first pillar, clarity. And then the second pillar is connection. Like, how do you authentically convey that? And one of the exercises I always put clients through when we're looking at their copy is first, would you read this if you were on the other side of the screen? Like, is this interesting enough? Maybe you don't have to have a pretty picture, but like, is this interesting enough for you to even like pause? And then second, read it out loud. And do you sound like you? Like, could you pick up the phone and read it and that would make sense? Or do you sound like someone else? And I think that relates to what you're saying around just really being like you're talking to a friend. Exactly. Yeah. So consistency, owning your voice. The big question I know on everyone's mind is, okay, cool, Taylor, like I can do that. Talk to my friend. Where does the money come from? How does it start falling out of the sky? So you said you weren't even really thinking about that. So how did it come to be that this became something you were able to earn money from?
Yeah. So it's funny because when I was starting out, brands would send me, their product to try very generously. And that was continuing for a long time while I started to, build my page. And I had a friend that was like, wait, you're posting about these things, but you're not charging. And I was like, no. And so I literally didn't know that was a thing until I had a friend that was like, hey, you can make some money off this.
I used to feel this way about graphic tees. I was like, why am I wearing the Hollister billboard, but paying them? Like I was that middle schooler that was like, I'm not wearing a graphic tee unless they pay me to be their billboard.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, after that led into me like creating a media kit, which was like totally like a learning curve for me and what that looked like. That, I was Googling what those entailed. And so after that, just really, reaching out to brands that I love and use every day, and just, it kind of just after a while of like learning what that looks like, then creating pitches to brands to be like, set yourself up. Like, I would love to create like a recipe using this product. Like I use it all the time. Yeah. And it was really important for me, one, to always work with brands that I love and genuinely would think that other people would love too. But that's, I think that's just the one way that has helped me in creating the revenue. Right now, that and then my website are my biggest sources of revenue. So
I love that shift in ownership. So this is super common where we like start receiving things and we're like, oh, cool. Like that's what they'll give me. This is true of personal trainers too. Like, oh, cool. Like people will walk in the door and pay me for a pack. But what if you had a different opportunity? What if they walked in the door and you said, actually, this is going to be a transformational program that you're going to invest $3,000 in, not 3 sessions in. And that shift that you just described between just taking what you get and putting out your boundaries and saying, hey, this is how we work in my business, right? Changing the billboard of your brick and mortar or changing the way that you work is so powerful. And I had a client, Isabel, she's a health coach in New York City, and she was getting a whole bunch of like, same thing, protein powder, crackers, stuff she didn't like. She was literally putting it on the street. She would get it from brands and she's like, I don't want this. Like, I'm going to give it away to the homeless. And I was like, this is so mixed up. You should be getting exactly what you want. And just like you, like creating those boundaries for how you work and how you receive food or money or clients is definitely a huge piece in really like monetizing this and having it stick for the long haul, not just like free protein powder while I work my 9 to 5. I think that's huge.
Yeah, it's definitely been like a shift of like looking at your energy and what you want to give energy towards, and creating those boundaries. I think becoming like my own boss, I've really like, that is like my biggest thing is like, okay, am I going to give energy to this, or is this like not like a good story?
Great point. Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, energy is like if you're saying yes to everything, then your no's mean nothing, right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious, this is a little bit off, but I'd love to know how you knew it was time to leave your 9 to 5 and this did become full-time.
Well, my journey over the last 4 years has been a lot of like unknowings, honestly, because so I left my job when I started this page. I told you I was like really unhappy in that. So I ended up leaving mainly for the reason of I was just really unhappy and it just wasn't a good thing for me mentally anymore. I still had this, I still had One Balanced Life, but at that point I knew it wasn't something I was going to do full time. So I knew I wanted to do social media and work in that, type of business after creating this. And so from there, I was able to get a full-time job doing marketing for a brand. And that led me down here to Austin. I was doing it remote. It was like a startup business. And within 2 months of being on that job, I was let go. And so
I can relate. Yeah.
So within being let go, I was like, I know I don't want to do corporate like world anymore. So I started doing freelancing, and I was like picking up little freelance work for brands, doing everything from managing their social media to recipe development and everything in between. Mm-hmm. And I was able to do that for a year until, at that point, like brand contracts were ending and I wasn't able to continue the freelance like flow to make that work. And at that point, I was like, okay, I can either continue to do like try and make this work full time. So I did it for a little bit, was going back and forth with, is this really what I want to do? I kind of feel like I should try going back to full time because, maybe I didn't give it enough time. A lot of just back and forth in my own head. Last October, I went back and worked full time, doing the 9 to 5, worked for about 6 months in that job and left in February of this past year. And I was like, okay, we're doing this thing.
Yes, girl, I can relate so much. People who listen to this have podcasts a lot, have heard this story before, but I came out to San Francisco with a startup, like doing yoga and coaching in schools. That was super cool. And then, like 5 weeks later, it was like, never mind, good luck in this new city you know nothing about. That's also very expensive. And just that like willingness to bet on myself, to say I'm in that era for me too. Like, I'm not going back to the 9 to 5. I want to bet on myself. I want to see what I can do on my own. And so often I love how you said that it's been more unknowings than knowing when it's time. But I want to underscore this because in these times of uncertainty in 2020, I know a lot of people are holding on to things that feel certain, like their 9 to 5, like their old clients, like an old way of being. And I think that's such a hoax in some ways, because hanging on to things that other people control, like them sending you protein powder, like your 9 to 5 deciding, never mind, we don't, like, until you are truly independent and like betting on yourself full time in every situation, I think you are always at a whim of uncertainty, just depending on something else. These government checks, even right now, I'm like watching people like waiting for the 2K that may or may not come. And I'm like, you got to create your own security, sweetie. So I just want to underscore that, because I think it's more true for people than they realize. It can be a big deal to lose your job. but all of us are at that whim, I guess, until we really bet on ourselves and own our realities. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think if I didn't have the leaving my job and getting let go and trying it again, all of that I think has what led me to now and to really trusting myself. I mean, I still have days where I'm like, like, what am I doing? Can I do this? I like, what? And especially with
how long is this going to last? Like, is this too good to be true? Like, is the other shoe going to drop? I totally relate. Yeah.
Yeah. And with 2020, it's just been a real shakeup. So it's just, like it really has thrown it all out there, but it's like, I feel like if you can get through this year, then, you can push forward. So,
yeah. And for you, true, leaving your job February 2020, weeks before everything changed. Talk to us about how it has been this year, being full-time, being your own boss, and maybe some of the biggest lessons you've learned and really betting on yourself this year.
Yeah. I mean, it's been definitely like a roller coaster of, some months feeling like, maybe I'm not going to be able to like pay everything because of, a lot of times I was losing contracts because of just, the way that the world was during March and April, like it's just been, it's been a constant just not knowing. But I think, just finding new ways to leverage your audience and really like be there during these hard times. And, I geared a lot of like my recipes toward using like pantry ingredients during the time when like we weren't able to do the grocery stores as frequently, and, maximizing what you can use in your fridge and really just like kind of thinking through different ways of, what people are looking for. And I think that's the greatest like good thing about like social media is, at that time people were really looking for those things. And so I was able to, during this last year still grow. And that was great for me, and be able to still manage doing this full time.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's huge. And there's something else I want to highlight in what, in this conversation that I think a lot of people are curious about. And when you're saying, you were losing contracts or, opportunities were changing for you and you had to meet the changing needs of clients and readers and viewers. I guess the point I just want to highlight is that sometimes people think influencers just like get money thrown at them because they looked pretty in someone's shoes. But you're saying that like you were in like, you have working relationships with these brands, like you're offering them value, you're helping them like create recipes. Is that right? I want to know a little bit more about what the actual monetization, like how that package looks, or what you're able to really offer people on the blog and Instagram.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people are really like, don't understand that whole process. I think sometimes my parents are still trying to figure it out too. But what happens is like usually a brand comes to you and they are like, hey, we have a product that we'd love to have you use in a recipe or some way featured on your Instagram. And so that then you like go back and forth on negotiating a price, getting terms down as to what exactly you're going to create content-wise. So it could be anything from like an Instagram post and stories, or a blog post, or a reel now, and so many different ways. Mm-hmm. And so getting that down, and then there's like the time to create the content. So that's me here in the kitchen, making the recipe, testing it sometimes, taking the pictures, and then just like going through like the whole process of like working with a brand. Then you submit your photos and your captions and everything to the brand for approval. Mm-hmm. And then you're good to go and post it. And so like, that's kind of just like the flow of, and there's like, I think a lot of times people think you like take a picture and throw it up, but there's actually like a lot of planning. And like for me, I've had my January 21 calendar right here where I'm trying to write in like what recipes I'm going to be and content that I'll be sharing every day for like the month. But yeah, that's kind of how that process works. And when I said like they were like ending contracts, a lot of it was just like the supply wasn't there at the time. Like people were buying everything at the stores. So like having a campaign that geared people to go to the store and buy this product just wasn't a thing anymore.
You had to teach them how to make sourdough bread out of what they had in the freezer or something crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because I know that there are coaches right now listening to this who wake up, they do their morning routine, they manifest all of their goals and money coming to them. They go walk and listen to the birds chirp and have their celery juice. And then they sit down and they're like, what do I want to say today for content? And here Taylor is saying that like, A, it's not about you. You have to figure out what the brand actually needs and how you can meet their needs. And B, it takes a lot of back work and planning to just, like you said, throw up a pretty picture that then can, lead to a brand deal or a paycheck at the end of the day. So thank you for breaking that down. I think that's huge.
Yeah, it really goes back to just a lot of planning, and I could probably do a whole like hour-long conversation on how I'm psycho with my Google Calendar and like color coding and time blocking and all of that, but that's a whole nother
Type me and you for sure. Well, yeah, this is really insightful in how, food bloggers make it, or behind the scenes of those health and wellness blogs. You have to create some sort of service. You have to have some offer, right? So whether that's creating recipes or helping brands get their word out, or also, Taylor, I know you also do health coaching. So helping people make these recipes at home. And I would love to know, just kind of in this last segment here, how the coaching piece has evolved as, everything else has kind of unfolded here. When did coaching come into the picture for you?
So coaching came within starting my page. I realized like I wanted to help people. Like that was my biggest why. And finding balance was something that took years for me to just like, really, I had a bad relationship with food and with my body and stuff for years. So kind of creating, a healthy balance and what that looked like for me. I wanted to help other women find that for themselves. And really focusing on like mind, body, and soul. So it, not just nutrition, but what you're saying to yourself and the movement that you do daily, and relationships, and just like different things that really all come down to like how you are balanced and how you feel and all of that, because a lot of it all comes together in the big scheme of things. And so yeah, that's what I do now, working with clients and doing like one-on-one coaching on just looking at everything, looking at their life and how can we, work together through, the meal planning and the prepping and just simplifying all of that for them.
Yeah, I love that. And I hear that so often from health coaches, that our own journeys inspire us to want to help other people, speed up the process or figure out how to love themselves. And I love how you're talking about like that holistic approach, because that's really what people need. When we talk about meal plans or we talk about a workout, that's what people think they need. And that's what you present on your Instagram. But when you get to work with them, you get to give them what they really need, which is what you're sharing a little bit about. And I think that's the way you put it is a really good, or the way I'm seeing you work is like a really great example of like the marketing versus the coaching. Marketing for you is like presenting beautiful, healthy food and how they can do it. But then if you really want to like achieve these transformations, the lifestyle, the sustainable healthiness that you talk about, it takes way more than just a recipe. So I love that you are able to offer all of those things. So people are dying to know where they can see your food, learn your recipes, and really continue this conversation with you. So where are the best places for people to connect with you?
So I'm on Instagram at onebalancedlife, and then you can find me. My website is onebalancedlife.com, where I share all my recipes, just different like lifestyle tips and stuff too. And yeah, that's where I'm at.
One Balanced Life. I feel like just typing that in is healthy. You know, like it's a good thing to say, One Balanced Life. So thank you, Taylor. I hope folks do continue this conversation with you over there on One Balanced Life. And friends, yes, I will be back with yet another inspiring guest that will help you make your dream life your real life next week.
That's right, friends. That'll do it for our show today. But remember, if you're really ready to implement and take these ideas into action, then hop on over to dreamlifeisreallife.com/show, and you can access all of the resources we talked about, and more importantly, set up a complimentary 10-minute phone call with my team so that we can help you get clarity and some concrete action steps in place, so this doesn't just become another one of those feel-good moments, but an opportunity to actually make a change in your life and business, because all good things come in action. So we'll see you over there at dreamlifeisreallife.com/show, and next week here on the show.